Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video I want to give you my top 10 champions for arena defense in the game, both across classic and 3v3 arena, and also across all different skill levels of the game, right? This is Platinum Arena right now, though it's just after reset, of course, so it's kind of quite mixed up. Some of the champions that appear here might not appear in my list. Some of the champions on my list might not appear in Platinum Arena. There is realistically going to be a lot of overlap, right? There's going to be tons of overlap, but not guaranteed, because I'm going to talk about just the game in general for all the players, not just the Platinum players. Yeah, this is sort of part one of a two-part series as well, guys. I'm going to be doing a top 10 arena offense list as well, which is going to be quite different, but I think it's good to get the defense list in first so we understand the sort of things we're up against and then what makes an offense team good. You need a defense to attack with an offense, right? So in my number one position, number one on the list for me is actually going to be Necrot the Great. I rank this guy really, really highly. I think he's sort of like the ultimate defense champion. He's sort of he's the most stereotypical one for me. What makes him so good is his two passives here. His two passives what make him so good. Block debuffs strengthen on the ally with the lowest max HP. At the start of the fight, just the start of the fight, there's nothing you can do to stop this. And he also gives them 50% ally protection for 6 turns, and you cannot remove that ally protection. But that's not all. Whenever you attack someone that has an ally protection by Necrot, he gives them a shield equal to 30% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. And there's no cooldown on this either, so once you break that shield or remove it, if you hit them again, he's just going to place a brand new fresh shield on them again, which is nuts. The thing that makes this so good, because you can tailor your defensive team with this. You can design your team and have this go on the champion that you want every single time. Typically, this is going to be a damage-dealing champion, which takes those champions, attack-based damage-dealing champions. Their big weakness is that they tend to be reasonably squishy. They're difficult to kill, and you suddenly make that champion almost unkillable, almost uncontrollable. He also has ally attacks with them. I think this is just so absurdly good. A lot of people giving him protection set now as well, so there's a chance that the block debuffs, the strengthen, the shields he puts out can be protected buffs too. And he turns any damage dealer into a complete monster, a complete nightmare to fight in the arena. Any single damage dealer with Necrot protecting them, it's just terrifying. So that for me makes him pretty much number one. It's a protected buff, the ally protection. There's nothing you can do about it. It will happen. The shield will happen. And yeah, Necrot the Great for me, number one. In number two spot, in sort of a similar vein, we're going to be at the top of my list here is going to be 3 champions in a row, which have crazy passives that you have to deal with. Number 2 is going to be Hegemon. Hegemon always goes first each round. That's his passive. So he will go first in the battle unless you have a Hegemon who is faster than their Hegemon. Just absurdly powerful. He has a big AoE attack here. So 2 ways to build him. Or actually 3 different ways to build him. You can build him to just smack really hard. Just a big nuker who goes first before the other team gets a chance to go. Alternatively, you can build him in like a stun set where he's got a good chance to place block active skills, a good chance to stun. Some people build him to do A1 to sort of push back turn meter, and again chance to stun with like a stun set or a taunting set, something like that. Hegemon, he's just a monster. And one of the things that makes him so scary on defense then as well is you don't know what sort of Hegemon they're going to have. Is it going to be a nuking Hegemon? Is it going to be a crowd control Hegemon? There's no way for you to tell, really. So you've got to be prepared for both, which makes it very scary. So you need very specific champions to counter Hegemon. I guess Mythrala Lifebane being accessible through Hydra makes it much more doable for a lot of people. But in 3v3 arena, for most of your arena career, this is going to be a champion that you steer well away from. Just really hard to deal with. Now, in the third spot, I'm actually going to put in Tormund here, which might actually differ from a lot of players' teams, but Tormund does the same thing with this passive. Whenever you receive a buff or get your turn meter filled, he has a really good chance to place a freeze debuff on those champions. Most players are going to be using Arbiter all the time across 3v3 Classic Arena. Once you get Arbiter, for 99.9% of players, 99.9% of the time you're going into Arena, you're going to be using that Arbiter. And Tormund really hard counters her. Both chance to freeze on her increased attack and her turn meter fill. It's really strong. I think Tormund is much more counterable than both Necrot and Hegemon. So he falls off a lot at higher levels of Arena. He's much easier to counter. But again, we're talking about all levels of play here. And I think for most players, like for at least the first year of playing the game, you're probably avoiding Tormund like the plague in Arena. You're just not going to attack any teams with Tormund in there. So that, for me, has to push him up this high in the list. Going in a different direction then, for number 4, 4th place, Duchess Lilitu, the queen of the defensive team, the queen of the tanky team, right? Passive, 25% reduced damage from AoE attacks. She's the AoE Perfect Veil with block debuffs. That Perfect Veil an additional 15% damage reduction. Then she has an AoE Revive that gives them Veil, continuous heal on everyone. Yeah, just an insane base stats as well. We've all fought Duchess in the arena. She's so tanky, so hard to kill, reviving her team, making her team much tankier. Pretty much the queen of that tanky defensive team, the go second team. She really enables it in an absolutely massive way. She's completely nuts, so she goes in there. Her sister in crime, I'm actually going to put Sefi in next. I'm ranking Sefi pretty highly here. I think she's super powerful on arena defense, guys. Look at this, this move right here. Whirlwind Romance, block debuffs, turn meter fill, increase defense, increase speed. What a selection of buffs for arena defense. Just absolutely crazy. She's got insane base speed, insane base stats across the board. You're going to build her fast, tanky, and with lots of resistance. She can land sleep debuffs that cannot be resisted. Doesn't need any accuracy. She's going to be landing sleep debuffs anyway. And then she has a really powerful revive as well, especially for some of those damage dealers. And then healing with her passive as well. And an insane combo with Rotos, the Lost Groom, who I will mention later on. So Sefi, I think as your sort of defensive speed booster champion, defensive reviver, in like faster teams, I think she's just absolutely crazy. So powerful and absolutely terrifying. She's very, very difficult to deal with. Next up, speaking of speed teams, I'm putting Prince Khaimar up next, right? A lot of teams in arena defense, you will be using speed, but you don't necessarily want to use Arbiter. There's quite a lot of good counters to Arbiter nowadays. Prince Khaimar gives you access to a very important part of your speed team, a really good speed aura for arena. Very few champions can do this. Khaimar brings it for you. So he opens up these speed teams, right? He opens up a whole bunch of new compositions that don't rely on Arbiter. And then, of course, he brings a buff strip with crowd control. He brings full reset of your team's abilities. It's just incredible kit, incredible kit. I think his kit is not as good on defense as it is on offense, but it's still insanely good. But I think that aura becomes so useful. Like you look in Tag Arena in 3v3, you need 3 teams. How do you build 3 speed teams? You really need those best speed auras in the game, and he provides one of them, which makes him just super, super powerful. Next up then, new champion, and a champion everyone can get. It's Mythrala Lifebane. I rate her super highly. I think she's just an insane champion. Obviously, insane base stats across the board once again. What makes her so strong? Well, the most powerful part is probably this passive that increases her resistance equal to the amount of accuracy that she has. What does this mean? It means that unless the enemy team is bringing an increased accuracy buff and perhaps an accuracy aura as well, or on top of that, for equal levels of gear, there's just going to be no way with equally geared champions that a debuffer is going to be able to successfully debuff Mythrala. It's just not possible. She's going to have too much resistance, which makes her so insane for defensive teams, because then she can come in, fully cleanse all allies, give them strengthen, and give them a really big shield. So as a defensive champion, she's just monstrously good. On top of that, she brings increased defense, increased attack on her A2, places a Hex AoE, and that Hex with her has a really good chance to start petrifying the enemy team, which just makes them fall apart. I think she's just insanely good for defense. Pretty much the go-to cleanser, your best cleansing champion to protect your team, because it's just so difficult to deal with her with that resistance that she's going to have. She's so strong. Next up then, these are going to be 2 champions back-to-back that do a similar thing and are just insanely powerful. And the first one is Warlord. Why is Warlord so good? Well, if Warlord takes a turn, he's going to put all of your skills on cooldown, and he's got a good chance to deplete your turn meter as well. If he hits you at this skill, he basically wins the fight, right? It's the I win button is essentially what Orcish Rituals is. So yeah, I think he needs to go up on this defense list as well, because that's such a powerful move. He then also has like a good heal with a shield and block debuffs on his A2 as well, which isn't too shabby to protect your team as well. I definitely think he wouldn't be at the top of my list for arena defense, simply because he kind of needs to get a turn. He needs to go to actually get this move off. But just it's pretty much the best move in arena, Orcish Rituals. It's the best move. If he does this, he wins, and that has to earn him a spot. He's just insane. And then I rate her slightly lower, but she's also super good. They're pretty much very similar in arena defense, but Yumiko does something very similar. Dance of Time, 3-turn cooldown on all your enemy skills. Also improves her ally skills as well. So this is super good too. This is super, super good. 3-turn cooldown is not... It's not as good, obviously, as putting skills fully on cooldown like Warlord does, but still powerful enough that you'll probably win the fight. You'll probably win the fight, and if she ever comes around to it a second time, watch out. It's certainly going to win the fight the second time, because that reset that she does is also going to definitely come into effect. She's got a great passive as well, where she has Perfect Veil at the start of each round, and she's immune to debuffs while she's under that too. So it's very difficult to crowd control her. Now, you can strip the Perfect Veil off and then CC her, but it's a bit difficult to deal with, so that makes her very strong, I think. And then if she ever gets a Hex up, she starts doing some crazy stuff with Hexes, like really crazy stuff where transferring debuffs back, all that sort of stuff. It's pretty funky. It's pretty cool. So Yumiko, she's really, really good. She's way up there. Very similar to Warlord, really. And then finally, that's actually the whole list, guys, apart from one. And I've got a noticeable, an honorable mention as well. In the final spot, I'm going to give that to Kandravon. So we've covered really pretty much entirely support champions in this list. Supportive champions. Just controlling the enemy team. Kandravon, what does he do? He gives your team a win condition. He was just in the guaranteed event this weekend, and I do think that he is the premier attack-based defensive champion. He's going to be the one that kills everyone. He is the best at doing it. Why is he so good? Well, it's his passive that makes him so good. He gets Perfect Veil whenever an enemy's turn meter is filled, and it can't be removed. And he does 40% more damage under the Veil, but also takes 40% less damage under the Veil. And Perfect Veil itself, of course, giving you that 15% damage reduction. So you bring him in as an attack-based nuker, and he's just extremely tanky. He's just very difficult to kill. On top of Force Affinity being a really good defensive affinity for the arena, because it blocks all of those magic affinity nukers, like Rotos and Trunda. He has an extra chance to survive them. Big AoE attack that gives him an extra turn if he kills someone, and then his A1 is one of the hardest hitting A1s in the game. Extra hit if the target's under any buff. This just rips people apart. This hits so insanely hard. He's just on another level. And then he even brings a big attack aura for arena, so you can combo him with the other champion I rated number 1 with like Necrot the Great. Put him in there with Kandravon in the lead, and then you've got a Kandravon with all of those buffs on top of having Necrot's buffs, and it gets pretty terrifying pretty quickly. So yeah, he for me is the best nuker. Now, my honorable mention is going to be Rotos. So he's not in the top 10. He doesn't quite make it into my top 10, but he has to be. He has to be the honorable mention. He combos so well with Sefi, right? Rotos plus Sefi, and she is in the top 10. The two combo so well together. I think without Sefi there, Rotos is still a great champion, but he's not going to be top 10 potential. But he can ignore unkillable block damage buffs, give an extra turn if he kills an enemy. His A1, decreased defense, and also a good chance of an extra turn. And then he starts stealing max HP with his A2. Also, this is the big part of it, is that, when he cannot lose more than 50% of his max HP in a single attack, and he gets an extra turn if that does happen. So you will find throughout your raid career, it's very difficult to deal with him. If you can't stop this passive, he starts getting extra turns, and then if he gets extra turns here or extra turns here, Rotos can very quickly snowball and just run you over. And if you can't kill that team quickly, he's also going to just slowly ramp up his damage, getting more max HP, becoming super tanky, and all of his damage scales off HP as well. So he's going to start hitting harder and harder and harder. So a terrifying champion, right? If you can't control him, he will eventually win. So there you go. There's obviously plenty of other champions as well I didn't mention here, like Leorius was definitely high up on my list, and Cardio, stuff like that. But I had to choose only 10, so those are the top 10 I chose, plus the honorable mention of Rotos. They are, for me, the scariest champions on arena defense throughout the entirety of the game. Like here we can see pretty much, like look at this team, absolutely terrifying. There you go, guys. Let me know what you think. What are your top ones? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And yeah, thank you for watching. Congratulations if you have any of those champions. I'm going to be building my Kandravon on stream tomorrow. I will be streaming, but over on my Twitch channel this time when CVC goes live. So hop on over to my Twitch channel and check out the stream. Going to be streaming CVC there. So I will see you then, hopefully. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.